First, let's take a look at the definition of a biofuel. A biofuel is a fuel produced from biomass material, commonly used as an alternative cleaner fuel compared to petroleum-based fuels. The most common forms that we have today break down into bioalcohols like ethanol, propanol, and butanol, and biodiesel. This diagram shows the process of refining ethanol from raw biomass material to purified usable fuel. Here we see the method of processing biodiesel fuel from either vegetable oil or animal fat. Small-scale processors are also sold for personal production of biodiesel for personal vehicles or farm equipment. This is a map that shows where biodiesel is made in 205 U.S. refineries. Biodiesel can be used at home for personal vehicles, home heating, electrical generation, and farming equipment. Many American-made cars now support E85 ethanol fuel and are often labeled with flex fuel. Biodiesel is also compatible in most new diesel engines when mixed in the proper blend.
When considering whether or not biofuels are a viable option to emphasize in the future, one must weigh the advantages and disadvantages. One main source of biofuels is ethanol, and depending on what source this fuel comes from, there's an argument to be made on both sides for it. For example, the disadvantages for, let's say, corn-based ethanol is the energy needed to produce it, its effect on the food supply, as well as the pollution that occurs from farming it. These greatly outweigh its economic and green advantages. At the same time, cellulose-based ethanol has the opposite problem. Where it sees advantages in being energy efficient and overall green, its drawback is its total cost. Biodiesel, another example of biofuels, is the only alternative fuel which meets the requirement for the Clean Air Act, as well as it already can be used in many existing fuel engines with little or no modifications. Currently, the norm for biodiesel production requires the adding of sodium hydroxide, which eventually needs to be removed from the final product. Matson Biofuels, a local company, cuts that process out of the equation, as well as eliminates the need for pretreatment of the raw material. Among other advances, this manages to cut back 75% of the operating costs, according to the state college-based company.
Several passenger vehicles come with a flex fuel option that allows them to run on ethanol blends from 0% to 85% ethanol. Even normal gasoline vehicles can operate on 10% ethanol blend with no problems. Diesel cars and trucks can run on biodiesel, though older models may need to have their fuel lines and gaskets replaced with modern synthetic materials. Some diesel owners have also modified their vehicles to run on straight vegetable oil. Recent testing has shown the viability of biofuel used in the aviation industry, and use of biofuels to power aircraft is expected to increase substantially in the next decade. Because current biofuel production relies heavily on crops that also function as food, emphasis is on developing new sources that don't cause deforestation and compete with food production. Small engines, like those found in lawnmowers and chainsaws, can use ethanol blend up to 10% without problems. The barrier to using higher blends, up to 20%, has more to do with the manufacturer's warranties than limitation of the technology.
By looking at the economic perspective, then we could mold the future of biodiesel. The first thing that we could determine is the competitiveness of biodiesel compared to the gasoline. For a time being, the value of most biodiesel is slightly expensive than the gasoline because the demand is not as high, and only E85 biodiesel is reported to be cheaper than gasoline. Over the years, there were some political debating on food versus fuel production. This problem could be solved by the production of biofuel from the algae or the marginal land plants such as jatropha. Since researchers on the alternative production for biodiesel generates the production of these biofuels, the problems related to food production could be solved. United States has given subsidies between $5.5 billion and $7.3 billion in 2005 for biofuel and is expected to grow significantly in current policies remain. Some say the biofuel is developed by fully depending on the subsidies. This is completely false. In fact, both Brazilian canned ethanol and US corn ethanol have successfully transitioned off subsidies. There are some possibilities of projected growth of biodiesel in the future, since United States is searching for alternatives in replacing the petroleum and reducing the dependence on other countries.